Hello and welcome to yet another video. In this video, we will be starting an all new module, which is going to be the last module for this course outline, which is going to be the collections in Java. So collections in Java happen to be one of the most important things that is present in the world of Java. And if you are coming from the C++ world, then you will notice that the collections in Java are actually very similar to STL library in C++. So collections in Java is definitely one of the most important things that are going to be present in Java, and it is a concept of core Java itself. So when we talk about core Java itself, in core Java, we have noticed multiple types of linear data structures, right? So we have noticed linear data structures like mostly we have seen arrays, right? And we have seen how we can create lists and things like that. In this particular video, or in this particular section altogether, where we are learning about collections in Java, we will be trying to look at what are collections. So if we talk about the English meaning of collection, we can say that collection is nothing but a group of something, right? So if I say that a collection of fish is like school of fish, if I say a collection of owl is like a parliament of owls, if I say a collection of a collection of maybe something like wolves is like a pack of wolves and things like that. So collection is basically a way of representing similar type of objects together. Now you might be wondering that isn't that what Shantanu said when we were learning about arrays, right? Don't you think that I technically told you the same things when we were learning arrays? So when we were learning arrays, there was slightly amount of difference. So in the world of arrays, we had seen that we technically had to specify a certain amount of size, etc., etc. We also had to specify a certain amount of or certain type of data type and things like that. But in the world of collection, it is going to look similar but as well as different. So we will try to learn the collections framework inside this particular module. So let us try to understand how the collection framework is going to work inside Java. So Java has a very specific way of dealing with collections. Okay, so we can say any group of individual objects which are represented as a single unit is known as collection of objects. Okay, so if we go about with the definition, then we can say that any group of individual objects which are represented as a single unit is known as collection of objects. Okay, so it is a complete separate framework which is called as collection framework in Java, and it is present since the 1.2 version of JDK, and right now we are using the 11th version of JDK. So it has been there since a very long time. In the world of Java, we have something called interfaces also, which is a way of providing abstraction. So in object-oriented programming world, Java is one of the best languages that we can have today. Java provides things like abstract classes, interfaces, and things like that. And in this collection framework, we are going to notice that there are a lot of classes, abstract classes, and interfaces which are written for us so that we can make use of them. Collection framework in layman terms, in the most simplest language I can tell you, it is going to make our lives easier. Okay, it is going to make our lives easier. A collection framework is a part of java.util package. Okay, the collection framework is a part of java.util package, and it is also an interface. So collection interface is there, which is present inside Java, which is a part of all the classes that we are going to talk about inside this collection framework. So we will talk about things like list, ArrayList, we will talk about linked list, we will talk about stacks, queues, we will talk about maps, sets, etc., etc. All of these things are going to come inside collections only. So collections are definitely going to make our lives easy. Okay, so there is something called collection interface, and then there is something called map interface. Okay, and both of these two things are considered to be the most important interfaces of the Java collection framework. Okay, so technically, whenever we see a collection, we can say that a linear collection, right? Something like an array. And when we talk about a map is going to be absolutely very interesting when we will come to learning about maps in this particular video or in this particular course structure. Okay, so now the question is that I have been mentioning this word framework since quite a long time. So you might be noticing that, or you might want to understand what is exactly a framework, right? You might want to know what is exactly a framework. So I can tell you that a framework is nothing but a set of classes and interfaces. A framework is nothing but a set of classes and interfaces which provide us with some ready-made architecture that is already given to us. So in Java or in any other programming languages, we might need to write a lot of code ourselves. But what if somebody has written some amount of code for things that are very important in our lives and we can easily use it? For example, let me just give you one scenario. Let us assume that you are an office going person and you also like to go to the gym. So you spend 8 to 9 hours of your day inside your office, and after you come back from office, or before you go to office, you like to go to the gym. Okay, so you have a very busy schedule, in short. Okay, you have a very busy schedule, and you realize that after coming from office, suddenly you feel so stressed and so tired that you don't really want to make dinner for yourself. So you have two options: either you order it from outside, or maybe think of hiring a cook for yourself, right? Maybe think of hiring a chef for yourself who can come to your house and cook food for you, right? Something like that. So something similar is happening over here. You can either cook all the food yourself, or you can hire somebody else who can cook food for you and just ask you to eat, and you can pay them, right? You can hire somebody as a cook and you can just pay them for the food that you would like to eat. Something similar is happening over here. So with this collection framework, collection is that cook for us, or collection is that chef for us, which is going to make the food for us, and then it will let us use it. That is how it is like. So a collection framework, or any framework, is nothing but a set of classes and interfaces in Java which provide us with a ready-made architecture or ready-made piece of code for us. Okay, so in order to implement any new feature or class, there is no need to define a framework. So that is why we like to use a framework. However, any optimal object-oriented design always includes a framework with a collection of classes such that all the classes perform the same kind of task. Okay, so now what is the reason that we would want to have a separate collection framework? Were we not getting all the tasks executed with arrays? So when we did not have the collection framework, the standard methods for grouping any type of Java objects were mostly arrays. Or if you're coming from C++ background, then vectors were there. Okay, so arrays and vectors were there. There was one more thing called hash table. So all of these three types of things were there. All of these collections had no common link. They did not have any common interface, because of which even though all the types of collections were same, their implementation was different, and it was difficult for a developer or any programmer to remember all of these information. So the main aim of all the collections is technically the same. That is, the implementation of all of these collections are defined independently and had no curriculum among them. That is exactly what I'm trying to explain. And also, it was very difficult for all the developers or any user who codes in Java to remember all the different types of methods, syntax, and constructors that are present in every single collection class. Because of this, we needed a separate collection framework, which was having some sort of commonality, which had some sort of inheritance implemented, because of which it should become easier for any developer to start writing code, and without providing a lot of effort in trying to understand or in trying to basically remember things about each and every collection class. That is the reason why we have a separate collection framework. If I would like to repeat it one more time, I can tell you that before Java 1.2, that is before collections were introduced into Java, there was one standard method of grouping all the Java objects together, that was arrays. Okay, so we all know what is an array. There's also something called vector in Java, and there was also something called vector in Java, just like we have it in C++. And there was one more thing called hash tables. So all of these three things were present, but they did not have any commonality. So when I say commonality, you can try to understand the example of interfaces. That is, interface is like a class in Java which has no objects. It only has functions which are non-implemented. Okay, that is what we have in interface. So there was no common interface. There was no parent or there was no common parent, because of which a lot of properties were different in every single collection, and this caused a lot of issues with the developer community. So every developer might need to remember every single type of constructor, every single type of method that is implemented or that is written inside a certain class, because of which it was going to become very difficult for any new developer to learn Java. To be very honest, if I think had Java not improved their collection framework, probably Java might not be the best programming language or among the best programming languages today. Maybe most probably C# might have taken over Java today. Even though C# is a very popular language today, but I still believe Java is at least, if not greater than, at par with C#. Okay, so C# and Java are one of the two most leading languages in the industry as of now. Let's come back to the topic. So over here, I was mentioning that we initially had arrays and vectors, and they were not doing the job properly for us. So we had a collection framework, something like that, but that was not helping us at all. It was not helping us at all, and because of which we needed or we required to shift away from the existing methods and create a new framework altogether. Okay, so now let us try to understand how we can basically think about a certain collection framework. Okay, so collections has a lot of things for us. Okay, collections has a lot of things for us. Collections basically going to help us to create a lot of different types of data structures. Okay, so it's kind of going to help us to create a lot of different types of data structures. One of the most biggest advantages of collections framework is that we will need a consistent API, or we will have a consistent API. Okay, so because of the commonality of interfaces in collection, set, list, map, etc., things that are present in collection, we have a consistent way of adding, removing things from a collection based API or a collection based class or interface. Okay, so we also have reduced our programming effort because of commonality. Okay, the biggest improvement the biggest advantage of the collections framework is commonality. That is how common or how simple or how similar things are between multiple interfaces that are implemented by the collection interface or collection class. Okay, so that is what I'm saying, that when we have this commonality, our programming effort is reduced to very, very less because of similar amount of code to be written. When we write similar code, we don't have to remember a lot of new things, because of which it actually helps us a lot when it comes to writing code. Then the third part is that it helps us to increase the program speed and quality. Okay, so because of commonality and because of how the code is written now, the performance is going to be increased, or the performance has increased, because it is now providing high performance implementation of useful data structures and algorithms. Because of this, the users and the developers have found it easy to implement new types of data structures and get their job done in the most easiest fashion. Okay, so the programmer might not need to think about the best implementation of a certain activity, because it is already done for the developer inside the collection framework. So this is one of the biggest advantage of the collections framework. Okay, and it's not only true for collections framework. If we talk about any new framework in general, usually the program speed and reliability and the quality is usually very, very high. Okay, so these three are the biggest advantages of using a proper collections framework. In a collection framework, we will talk about very important classes like ArrayList. We will talk about classes like list and ArrayList and LinkedList. We will talk about maps. We will talk about sets. We will talk about lambdas, which is something very interesting. If you are coming from a JavaScript background, you might find it very interesting. Okay, so there are so many things that are present inside the particular collections module, and collections, like I have mentioned, is going to be very important because it is going to contain, or it does contain, a lot of things that we use in our daily lives, and it is implemented in the most efficient and the fastest way possible. Because of this, collections are extremely widely used and therefore help us as developers to write our code easily, and also makes us ensure that we have the best performance at all times. So this was pretty much it from my side in this video about collections, and I will see you in the next one.